Hi, I'm Ambra. Let's talk brains, specifically children's brains. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually a licensed junior and primary division teacher. The brains of little minds have always intrigued me, so I felt like I'd share a little bit of that knowledge with you. Early learning gets a lot of flack because it seems kind of like the teachers in early learning aren't really doing all that much. You know, you get to sit around, you get to play, la 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 la, women's work, you hear all those things. Furthermore, if you're a stay-at-home mom, sometimes people are questioning if you even do anything at all. But as an educator, I can definitely say that that is far from the truth. I would argue that early learning is actually exceptionally important, and people are missing beautiful opportunities to foster a true connection and great intelligence within their child. Just as an aside, this is a personal gripe of mine, but it is strange to me that based on the knowledge that we have, that early learning teachers are paid less than secondary teachers, because everything that secondary teachers do and everything that will be done with them in the future is directly correlated to the stuff they learn when they're in early learning and elementary classes. They're like the young years, the primary years. If the work wasn't done in those early years, the secondary teachers actually don't have anything to work with and they have to call in specialists. I'll get into more of that a little bit later, but that's just a personal gripe of mine that I gotta put that in there. That being said, if you're a homeschool mom or dad, if it's just for the first few years, those years are important. Even if you're just home with them from time to time, because I understand everybody has to go back to work eventually. I myself will be returning to work before my child is 1 year old. But just to share a little bit, according to buildingblocks.gov.au, your child's brain is going to be doubled in size by the time they're 1 year old from the state it was in during birth. And we know from research that a child's brain is going to be 90% developed by the time they're 5 years old. That's pretty astonishing considering that your brain doesn't fully stop developing until you're around 25. And that's pretty astonishing because it talks about a few things. Basically, during that really early stage from 0 to 5, and depending on your sources, some say from 0 to 8, the vast majority of the mental pathways your child is going to create are actually going to happen within those first 5 to 8 years. Once you get to around puberty, somewhere between puberty and 14 years old, depending on when you start, your brain is going to go through something called pruning. And all of those pathways that haven't really solidified or been connected to anything will slowly start to dwindle away. That basically means that if you haven't learned to read with a certain level of competency by a certain age, usually around puberty, it means that you're going to need extensive interventions in order to get you from where you're at to reading at an appropriate level for your age category. This is why people tell you that it's better to learn languages when you're very young, because your brain has the mental pathway space in order to do it. Of course, that doesn't mean that new pathways can't be created, because the pathways don't really disappear so much as they sort of go dormant, but they're harder to reactivate once this transition in your life occurs, which is probably why people think of it as like a second toddlerhood almost, because there's so much that the solidifying of the wiring in your brain is happening. So a lot of people I know, or especially when I was doing classroom teaching, would sort of not really think about how seriously that first set of years should really be taken. And this is not to say that every parent is doing a terrible job. In fact, I think most parents are doing as much as they can. Furthermore, I don't think it's placed a lot of emphasis on, so I think some parents are just unaware more than they're trying not to do anything, right? Which is really unfortunate because that really hinders what our children are able to accomplish. Because the effects of low engagement of those early pathways and connections won't be seen until they're well into their teens or into their adulthood, people take for granted that their child can just sort of be, they'll sometimes say that, oh, I've got time, oh, I've got this, oh, it'll be fine, we'll fix it later. Or a child is hitting their classmates and the parents, it doesn't necessarily injure the other kids all that significantly, though I wouldn't be too sure about that. Some kids are really strong. But they're hitting other people, they're hitting their teacher, and that behavior goes uncorrected because at the time it doesn't hurt. But inadvertently, not doing anything about it will eventually lead to a pathway in which aggressive behavior becomes the norm for that child. Then, when they're an adult, it will actually do something. It's cute that, oh, you're using your arms and you're just patting and you're upset when you're like 2. But that 2-year-old becomes a 25-year-old, and that 25-year-old is going to injure somebody. And then that 25-year-old is going to be sitting in correctional facilities, potentially, not always, but potentially, wondering how they got to this point and the inner work they're going to have to do to solve that unregulated aggression is much more complicated at 25 than it would be when you were 7 or 3. So, just as an encouragement, I want to let parents know that very difficult stage of trying to work with a child who is only now developing their language skills and their level of understanding, and you're listening to the ABCs to the point of insanity and you're redoing routines. Trust and believe that it is so important that the work that you've put in already and the work that you're doing with your child's educators is exceptionally important, and that you're doing something that is going to reap benefits in the long run for your child. And I want to leave you with a little bit of knowledge. There are 2 popular theories in child development that educators use to determine what's developmentally appropriate and the emotional responses and the importance of certain connections being developed at certain ages. The first one is Piaget's cognitive theory of development, and that covers things that are mostly internal, mostly their what stages they reach, what levels of information they can understand, and when it's appropriate to expect certain levels of understanding in terms of cognitive process. Erikson's theory deals more with the social structures that are around the child. Are they able to depend on their family members? Are they able to have a certain level of autonomy at certain ages? Are they encouraged in certain behaviors and pathways that will allow that cognitive development to occur correct? And I've placed the 2 primary sources on my blog, which is linked in bio, as well as a comparison source for both of them so that you can take kind of like a snapshot of both. And I would encourage you to read the primary sources yourself, as it can be really difficult to find developmental theories that will really break down what it is that they said without sort of inserting their own theories to it. And that way you can actually see for yourself where the developmental theories stem from and really get a glimpse on it for yourself, because I think more knowledge is power, right? God placed us as the caretaker and protector of our children. I think more than anyone else, a parent should have as much knowledge as there is so that they can be informed if they're working with educators or if you're just working for yourself to be the one who educates your child. You should absolutely have as many tools as are accessible to you. And just to clarify, I don't own any of these sources myself, and I've linked to the direct places in which you can find them. However, if you appreciate the knowledge, I wouldn't mind if you stopped by my coffee and left a donation, because your girl puts in work. So I'll leave you with that old proverb: train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's science. It's proven. That's how it works. So be encouraged. You're doing excellent work, even on the hardest of days when it feels like you're going insane. Wishing you the best. Hope you stay encouraged. This has been Ambra on The Art of Ambra. If you have questions, feel free to leave comments. If you have suggested topics, I would love to hear them. I love to do research, so even if I don't know, I will figure it out. Thanks for watching.